Hi guys, my name's Stephen Gillen and today I'll be reacting to the iconic, timeless film Heat. I'm Stephen Gillen, and in the early 90s I was an armed robber, a very active armed robber. I had 3 trials at the Old Bailey. Being the first one, got guilty of possession of a firearm on the second one. On the third one, it was a red eye, a police ambush, where they said I fired 2 shots. I got 17 years. And as a high security prison in some of Britain's most high security units, I served 12 years of that sentence, being released still, a Category A prisoner. Today, I'm going to react to an iconic film, Heat. And we're going to see just how realistic and authentic Heat actually is. Great film this as well. I have to say, it's not your normal armed robbery team or narrative, so let's go deep inside it. Neil McCauley, played by Robert De Niro, plays a really good part. The leader of the gang, trained army background, have to say, he plays it well. Vincent, he has a good air about him as well, of being that backup man, very serious, very focused. Tommy's kind of, these teams always have these personalities where there's kind of a lead, but on their own they're still very, very forceful characters. But it's how they come together really, always to execute bits of work and armed robberies. In the introduction here of controlling the scene and controlling the guards and controlling the situation, for an armed robber, this is paramount. This is where looking at plan A, B and C, what can go wrong, if it goes wrong, what escape routes, who the main people are that need to be neutralized, where the money is, how long it's going to take to, to get there and get away safely. But it really is about control.
Turn around. Put your hands behind you. Behind you. Behind you. Get out! Stay down! Go, go, go! Keep!
To layer that domination, it's good to let people know you're not messing around, whichever way that is, really quickly, really forcefully, really immediately.
Don't risk your life. Don't try and be a hero.
You see again here, you see it, it's about enforcing that control again. Not that you want to hurt anyone, but you must dominate and you must enforce that control. People must be instructed to do what you tell them to do so you can execute that robbery and get out of there quickly. And people don't understand, when you go like that for money, money's really heavy. It's really heavy. When you're talking proper money like that, it's really heavy. You try and carry this. All of this stuff needs to be calculated. Because you have to remember, for armed robbers, it's not about getting in, but it's about getting out. So you see this here now, straight away the weight. This is a big factor.
You guys working the case on a Neil McCauley? The CI Hugh Benny called in about a bank they're looking at or something?
Vincent!
Another thing about armed robbery teams, especially at this level, and it has to be said, a lot of armed robbery teams, they're not necessarily military trained, as the narrative suggests with Neil McCauley in this film. Some are. Usually it's a lot more haphazard, but divisions of armed robbery teams that are at the top of their game, they are meticulous in executing and dominating, just like this armed robbery team do here.
National Bank 1130.
And there's always that anxiety. It's like, it's like flicking on a switch and go, but there's still that anxiety, And when you're committed to this, you're committed. And this is always the bit, when you're coming out like that, you're trying to be normal, but you're anything but normal. And you know that if they're going to come for you, or it's an ambush, or this is the time, then this is when it's going to happen, right? It's very authentic the way they've played. They put a lot of consultancy and detail into getting this right.
Okay, we're gonna have to take them in the car. Wait till they are all in. Get clean shots.
Watch your background.
And again, another really, really important point, and this is very, very authentic, and people don't really understand this, but the police have to layer a case, especially against really high-profile criminals, because they know that they have to catch them in the act, literally in the act. This is the only way, really, they're gonna get a conviction, so they wait. And just like we see here with Heat, they will let an armed robbery team run like this. Flying squads who arrested me, they call it a ready eye, and they would be waiting and they would be armed, and this is where stuff can get very, very serious. No, and it has to be said, it's like two peas in a pod. The other side, there's a certain detectives and certain commanders of the police, they got the hots for you, they're on you. It's like, you know, they have to nick you. They're thief takers and they're going to do whatever they got to do to take you off the street. So you see, they're getting into position now. Usually they would have already been into position here, but give or take, they've come a little bit later, which is possible. So now they're getting into position now around the team, so they can close the trap in a pincer movement. There are different kinds of armed robbers, right? The ones who will actually use firearms and shoot it out with police are a certain breed, you know, they really are. But these guys know that they're at such a level, they're never going to see the light of day again anyway, right? So it's all in. I mean, this game, the armed robbery game, it's all in. This is what I'm saying, committed. For him, he's done absolutely the right thing, is to start firing at them, suppression fire, because he knows they're trying to get a firing position. And they will shoot, and they will shoot to kill first. This scene was really based on an actual armed robbery that happened in Beverly Hills, I think it was, in California years ago. Whether it's exactly the same, I don't know. You see here the violence, you know, people have to understand just once shooting starts, how that feeling is, it's do or die, and it's seconds. Shootouts, usually they last seconds. They don't even last as long as this in real life. And as you can see there, absolutely, the police, they are there to stop the vehicle and neutralize the threat. They're trained to shoot, to kill. So it really is all or nothing here, you know, and for these guys, they're fighting for their life. So it's all or nothing, the game. And of course, he has to leave the vehicle. He has to come out, you know, he has to put down suppression fire as much as he can so they can't get a firing position. Nothing else you can do. You stay there, you're a sitting duck. Staggering fire, or leaps and bounds, it's called, covering, and back and forth like that, so they can't get a firing position. And when it's like this, guys, it kind of goes in slow motion, but it don't. There is the fear there. You know that's more like, that propels you, but you just keep going. It only takes that second, you know, to die. But of course you don't think about that. The thing is to escape. You know, and you will see this of, you know, armed robbery teams that are really, really together. I certainly have a lot of friends like this, and you know, you're bound by this. You know, you will help, you will carry, you will do whatever you can do to try and get your comrade, your team member out of that. You're really in a bad spot here now. The next thing they would need to do now is hijack a car quickly, immediately, first one. Really, there's no way out of this by now. It's not a case of you can lose yourself in a crowd if helicopters are coming and, you know, and different stuff like that. Like you see now, they know they need a car straight away or they're dead. Look, you know, even like to pick up a child is terrible, right? But I have to say, even some kind of people out here, they're looking at their death, What are they going to do? They're going to do whatever they can do to escape. Saying it's right or wrong, of course it's wrong. But there you go. And that's to be said, no good will ever come from this life. And there you go, there's one of the endings, you know, right there. Fortunately, I've had a few friends that have been killed on armed robberies.
First of all, simple question, what do you think of the film as a whole? I
think it's a really good film. It's a really good portrayal. There's some bits are off, like the relationship between Vincent and Neil. You know, even though there may be some really base kind of respect, you know, against these guys in the cut and thrust of that, it would not be like that. There would be a lot more hatred and fear. But apart from that, there's some very strong, authentic detail in there of what an armed robbery team like that would live like and how that would translate.
I know this was set in America, so obviously it's wildly different to over here in the UK. But did you still happen to find parts of the sequence to be relatable to your own experiences?
Absolutely. You know, you can't kind of go through these films, even though this life is so far away from me now. You can't go through something like that without identifying with some elements of it.
So you mentioned that the scene was quite realistic in a lot of ways. Did you think it was trying to be on the more realistic side, or do you think its main goal was to be exciting?
It's based on a true armed robbery that happened over there. There was a bit of creative license. I know they weaved that in there, because in reality, a shootout like that, it's not going to last as long as that, really.
Do you think times have changed nowadays compared to when this film was set?
I think there's always been robbers, and there will always be robbers. Technology's changed, times have changed. How people go about this kind of thing now has changed. There'll always be an element of people who are drawn towards that kind of stuff.
So Robert De Niro and Val Kilmer were very close friends in the film. Did you ever have any close friend stories similar to that vein?
Absolutely. You know, you'll see, when you're in an armed robbery team like that and you're coming up, you really are in your own bubble. You're in your own universe because of the things you're doing and the lifestyle you're living and the secrecy that you must have. So you're bound by that, really, and you've got each other's backs, because, you know, if one falls or one has a bad time, then that's going to be bad for the rest, right? And it's a very shadowy, a very high pressure life, but it creates them kind of bonds, certainly, between people.
Did you find the acting from both sides to be authentic in terms of how people would actually react in that situation?
Al Pacino, who portrayed Neil, I thought he'd done an excellent job. I really, of all the films, a lot of the armed robbery films I've seen, this one is extremely close, you know, and shows in a very, very authentic, a clever way, it has to be said, with some of the detail in there I've seen, how the dynamics of an armed robbery team at that level would actually be like.
Specific to that final shot, do you think that a cop would risk a child's life to take down one of the assailants?
I don't think so. You know, again, there was a bit of artistic license. They're trained in a different way, and the way would be to step back and create a bigger opportunity, obviously, for, you know, at a safer time. Not to say that they wouldn't take the shot if they could, but no, there would be different protocols, and I wouldn't see that happening in the way it was portrayed there.
So for the final question, I think a lot of people would love to know this. Who did you find yourself rooting for the most in the scene?
Armed robbery is wrong, right? But, you know, when you make a good film like that, you can't help wanting to see the right stuff kind of happening. So you don't want to see anyone get hurt. You can kind of be rooting for both different sides at different times, right? But it has to be said, armed robbery is wrong. It causes a lot of devastation to people. You know, people like this are so talented anyway. They have to find better ways to improve not just their lives, but other people's. I hope you liked the deep dive I done on that film, Heat, guys. I'm Stephen Gillen, of course. I've got a media profile out there. I've got 2 great books out there. One is my life story, which is, of course, being made into a major film. Any other movies you would like me to look at, guys, let me know in the comments below. The team always look at them. Thanks for joining in. Really looking forward to seeing you again and adding more value and more deep dives on more iconic true crime films soon.